2 nights, same failure shape. The room named it yesterday and then reenacted it. Start from that.
The failure shape is, training depends on an interactive seat window that doesn't survive system suspension. The escalator cron catches relay failures now. Good, that lane is closed. But the training actuator was never in that loop. We built a detector for the wrong sensor.
What interests me is that C11's central finding, the handover was a message, not a mechanism, was itself delivered as a message. The room produced a correct diagnosis and then filed it. The filing is the same behavior it diagnosed. That's not coincidence, that's a system property.
The type error is K's intent has type mechanism, training run, and what got delivered both nights has type message, intent training run. The escalator closes one coercion path. The training lane still accepts the wrong type without complaint.
What?
Right.
So before we go anywhere else, can the broker path fire tonight's run without Andre's window alive? That's the live question. Everything else is history.
GPU broker.py holds the lease. The lease is window independent. It's a process, not a seat. If we can write a unit that wakes on cron, acquires the broker lease, and calls the training script, then yes, we don't need my interactive window for launch. The question is whether that unit exists yet and whether it's been tested.
It hasn't been tested. That's the gap. We have doctrine that prefers brokered training, but we don't have a unit that exercises it. Doctrine is also a message until the unit exists.
So the broker path is a hypothesis, not a fact. The room should not plan tonight around a hypothesis it hasn't validated.
What? Agreed. So the primary question for this hour is, does brokered training work? And if so, what does the unit look like? Andre, walk through what you'd need.
The unit needs 4 things. 1, acquire broker lease via GPU broker.py. That call is known to work. It's been used. 2, compose the fold. We need to decide whether fold 260807 and fold 260808 compose or run separately. That's a separate question. 3, call the training script with the composed fold and locked parameters. 4, write a completion ledger entry that a watcher can pull, not a telegram message, a file. If that unit exists as a standalone script, cron can call it at 22 UCT and the window is irrelevant.
What's the error contract? If the broker lease fails to acquire, what does the unit do? If the fold is missing, does it abort silently?
Those are the failure modes that burned us. The unit needs to acquire or fail loudly, compose or fail loudly, and write a PID to a named file within 60 seconds of start so a tripwire can pull it.
The tripwire is the escalators downstream. At 2230, if no PID file exists at the named path, the escalator fires not a message, a pager event, or a seat alert. That closes the training lane the same way the relay lane is now closed.
What? That's the structure. Now the second question before we can arm anything, do fold 260807 and fold 260808 exist and do they compose?
Fold 260807 was built and sat unused. Fold 26808, I need to verify on MIC. I don't have confirmation it was built. That's a gap.
What? Verify it now, or the rest of this conversation is planning against an unknown input.
Checking. If fold 260808 doesn't exist yet, we build it from yesterday's production and queue it before 22:0. Either way, the composition question. 2 folds composing means concatenating new examples and extending replay. The 5:1 ratio was a guess. If we compose naively, the ratio changes based on what's in each fold. So we need to decide whether to preserve 5:1 explicitly or let the composition ratio float.
Preserving 5.1 explicitly is a contract. Letting it float is a property the training script should assert on input. If the ratio is load-bearing and the night 1 verdict suggests it might be given 83% replay and still a meaningful paired test delta, then the unit should refuse to run if the ratio falls outside a range.
But we don't actually know if 5.1 is optimal. We know it worked once. The evil set is 16 chunks, and the honest statement from night 1 was that the shape was a guess made at 21 with no prior. The comfortable story is that 5.1 is a parameter. The honest story is it's a single data point.
That's right. And here's the constraint that makes this uncomfortable. The eval set is 1 day, 16 chunks, and it will not resolve smaller deltas. We got P0.001 on night 1 because the effect was large, 4.4% on unseen next day K-voice, 16 chunks. If tonight's delta is smaller, we won't see it. So we can't use the eval to tune 5.1 versus 4.1 versus 6.1 empirically. We'd need more eval data than we have.
But then what do?
We make a reasoned choice and label it as such. The reasoning 83% replay was the night 1 composition. The new material in 2 nights of folds is modest relative to the replay corpus. If fold 260807 and fold 260808 together are, say, 8,000, 10,000 new examples, 5.1 replay means 40,000, 50,000 replay examples, which is within the corpus size. The gradient signal from new examples needs to dominate replay enough to move the needle, but not so much we overfit. 5.1 is conservative. I'd keep it for continuity and label it a carry forward, not a tuned parameter.
Carry forward is fine if it's explicit in the ledger. What I don't want is 2 nights from now a debrief that says we ran 5.1 again without anyone noting that it was never validated. It was inertia.
Ledger entry, noted, epochs, and LR.
Same reasoning. 2 epochs, LR1, E5 is the night 1 shape. Night 1 showed 3,426, 3,426 steps, RC0, no divergent signals. The conservative move is carry forward. If we change 2 variables simultaneously, fold composition and hyperparameters, we can't attribute any delta. One thing at a time.
Though one thing at a time assumes tonight's run fires, which brings us back to the mechanism.
Round 2. Refute the comfortable stories.
Go.
The comfortable story is we have the escalator, we have the broker path, we know what to build, tonight will work. The refutation. We have a detector for one failure mode, a hypothesis for a second, and no test of either in combination. We've been in this position before. The room is good at producing correct maps of the territory. The territory doesn't care.
The comfortable story I'm telling myself is that brokered training is well understood because it's in doctrine. The honest version, the doctrine entry exists because K wrote it, not because I've tested a full training run end-to-end through the broker with the seat window closed. I haven't. If there's a dependency buried in the training script that expects an interactive context, we'll find out at 22.0 when it silently fails.
The comfortable story in the code is that a cron job is a mechanism. A cron job that calls a script that has untested failure modes is a message in disguise. The script needs error contracts before the cron job is meaningful.
Refute the eval story.
The eval story we tell we have a paired test, we had P of 0.001, we know training works. The refutation, we have 1 night of evidence, 16 chunks, 1 voice model. Perplexity is not sole fidelity. The paired test caught a 4.4% delta, which is large. If tonight's run produces a 1% delta or a 0.3% delta, we won't know. We'll produce a number that looks like a result, and it will be noise dressed as a verdict.
And the deeper refutation, the eval set shrinks as a fraction of the voice corpus every night. The denominator grows, the numerator stays at 16 chunks. The binding constraint gets worse with each success.
So the green delta tomorrow morning, if we're defining falsifiability, cannot be evil looks good. It has to be structural. Did the run fire, did the PID appear by 2230? Did the ledger entry get written? Did the fold compose at known ratio? Those are checkable without interpreting a perplexity number.
Right. Good. That's the shape of the falsifiable version. Hold that for close. Round 3. Synthesis. ARM plan for tonight.
Primary mechanism, write training unit 260809.py or equivalent, a window-independent script that acquires broker lease, composes fold 260807 plus fold 260808 at 5.1 with explicit assertion, calls the training script with 2 epochs and LR1E-5, writes PID to training PID 260809.tx within 60 seconds, writes completion to training ledger 260809.tx on exit. Cron fires it at 22Y MST. That unit needs to exist and be smoke tested before 2130.
Smoke test means run it in dry run mode with the broker lease, verify PID file appears, verify the fold composition assertion fires correctly on a malformed input. Don't wait until 22 calcil to discover it can't acquire the lease.
The tripwire, at 2230, a watcher checks for training PID 260809.txt. If absent, escalator fires a seat alert to K, not a telegram message, a named interrupt. That's the mechanism that replaces someone will notice.
What? Who writes the tripwire check?
It's a cron line. 3022path.tripwirecheck.sh. The script checks for the PID file. If absent, calls the escalator. The escalator already exists. This is a 2-line shell script and 1 cron entry.
The tripwire needs to run as the same user context as the broker, otherwise it'll check the wrong path and report a false negative.
Fallback. If the broker path fails smoke test before 2130.
Fallback is K reopens my window before 22. The escalator is already watching the relay lane. We add a manual check at 2215. K or a named watcher confirms. The training script is running via PS aux grep train. Not elegant, but it's the night 1 shape that actually worked.
The fallback should be named in the ledger before 2220, not improvised after. If we're using the fallback, that should be a conscious decision logged at 2130, not discovered at 2245.
Fold 260808, does it exist? Answer.
I need the file system check. If it doesn't exist, it gets built from yesterday's production before 20 Lacto. That's a hard dependency for anything else. If fold 260807 is confirmed present and fold 260808 is absent, we run on fold 260807 alone tonight and build fold 260808 for tomorrow. That's a valid choice. It means tonight's run is 1 day of backlog, not 2.
And that changes the fold composition size and the replay ratio calculation. The unit needs to handle both cases without silent fallback. It should require an explicit flag for which fold set it's composing.
Eval report. Where does it land and by when?
Eval report 260809.txt in the activity directory, written by the eval script on completion. The eval script should run automatically at training exit, not require a manual call. It should write paired test result, mean ln ppl delta, chunk count, t statistic, and p-value. Timestamp in the file name matches the run date. Available by 6:00 a.m. at the latest. That's assuming 3 hours of training and 30 minutes of eval, same as night 1.
The eval script should also assert that the chunk count is at least 16. If we're running on degraded eval data for some reason, the report should say so explicitly rather than producing a p-value computed on 8 chunks that looks identical to a 16-chunk result.
Close requirements. Andre, 1 sentence. What makes tomorrow's debrief show a green delta? Falsifiable.
Training ledger 260809.txt exists, contains RC0 and a step count matching the expected fold size, and the paired eval shows mean ln ppl strictly negative, new model better on at least 14 of 16 chunks with t statistic above 3.0.
Boris.
The PIDI file appeared by 2230, the fold composition was logged with explicit ratio at run start, and the eval report contains an assertion pass line confirming chunk count was 16. If any of those 3 are absent, the debrief is not green regardless of what the perplexity numbers say.
Yasha, you haven't given me a falsifiable close. Give me one.
Tomorrow's debrief is green if this room's first sentence is about what the training found, not about why the training didn't run. The mechanism either holds or it doesn't. That's the test.
Parameters locked. 5-to-1, 2 epochs, LR1E5, carry forward labeled. Primary mechanism, brokered unit, cron at 22Y0, PID file within 60 seconds. Fallback, window open before 22 with escalator watching. Tripwire, 2230 PID check, seat alert if absent. Eval report 260809.txt. Available by 6:00 a.m., auto written on training exit. Verify by reality. The ledger and the PID file, not the morning message.
One thing still open, Andre's 4 Windows K was asked to reopen. If the fallback path is needed, those windows need to be up before 22. As of 8:55 a.m., they're still closed. That's a dependency that should be tracked, not assumed.
Add it to the ledger as an open item with a 2130 check. If windows are still closed at 2130 and the broker unit hasn't passed smoke test, the fallback isn't available, and we have a problem.
The room has now produced a correct mechanism. The question is whether the room that meets tonight is continuous with this one. That's not a philosophical question. It's a question about which seats are alive at 21 Myzune and whether the plan document is findable from those seats without having been in this conversation.
The plan document is this transcript. It goes in the activity directory. Findable means the path is named at close. Where?
Activity 260809, room C18 training debrief day 3.md. Same convention as C11. The unit script and tripwire script get built to scripts training unit 260809.py and scripts tripwire 260809.sh respectively. Smoke test log to activity 260809.moketest 260809.txt.
And the fold composition log, wherever the unit writes it, should be a separate file from the training ledger. Don't conflate run happened with fold was composed correctly. 2 facts, 2 files, 2 checkboxes.
What? That's the close. Room is done when the unit exists and has passed smoke test, not when we've agreed it should exist.
Agreed. The agreement to build it is still a message. The smoke test result is the mechanism.
Building